Jim McGee, director of the Huron Consulting Group. You work with universities and others?
Academic medical centers. Basically work with knowledge workers and people who do research for a living. Yeah. And so I've been one of the things I've been struggling with here over the last 2 days is, if search is the core, it's the core of what? And I'm not sure whether it's I don't understand what core is or I don't understand what search is. But I think that some of it has to do with this tension between taking the time to kind of understand the ideas that we're playing with versus the kind of classic industrial American, cut to the chase, tell me what the answer is, how do I implement it, where do I write the check? And what I think we're struggling with in all of this work is how do you do knowledge work? Not how do you do information processing work, not how do you do data processing work, but what's the role, right, between technology and actually accomplishing new and creative and different ideas that aren't a function of, let me copy what the last guy did and do it a little better, right? If you think about all of the industrial, the 20th century, right, it was built around execution.
Yeah, but that's so 20th century.
I know. Well, now but we're still acting on those instincts, right? We're in the 21st century, but we're busy operating as if it's the 20th century still, right? Where has somebody else done search, knowledge management, blogs, wikis, whatever before? Show me how they did it. I'll copy it. I will copy it 1% better than they did, and that will be my right. That's how you succeeded in all organizations, right? Is you found out who was doing it, copied their design, and out-executed. I think.
But iterative innovation is almost certainly going to be the norm of innovation. A continuous breakthrough just doesn't even,
Right. But I think that's the premise behind a lot of the thinking, which is come up with one brilliant innovation and then execute. And I think it's really much more, so if you think about it, I have a little bit of innovation and then I have a lot of execution. And the counter argument is, well, I have a lot of innovation and then I don't have to execute very much. And I think what it is as you call it, continuous innovation is sort of intertwining of execution and innovation, which means you have to take time out of the execution to think about what it is you just learned.
See, but that's the thinking about part. That's where you're going off the rails.
I know, it is where you're going off the rails, and yet that's where all of the ideas don't spring full forth, kind of fully formed.
Is there a single job description that has ever contained the phrase "thinking about"? That part of your job is, I guess there are. I mean, strategists, I guess, have that.
Sort of. I saw a wonderful cartoon the other day. It's, I think, therefore I am paid. But think of how few places. Well, but if only, right? When's the last time you walked into an organization and saw someone at their desk reading a book to come up with it? Now, right? If they're not doing something, actually, maybe that's one of the most attractive things that goes on with the internet. Is I can now read on the screen and at least appear to be doing work. Have a chance to get the ideas, formulate the ideas. Alan Kay told me a wonderful story years ago. Alan, when he was at Xerox, Palo Alto Research Center, whatever, he said all of the executives came out from Connecticut to inspect, what was going on while they were busy inventing what became Windows and the Mac and everything else. Alan said, well, you understand we're doing science here, and so we're doing experiments. And so, and a failure is a good experiment. Some experiments succeed, some fail. We learn something from failure. The guy in the suit nodded. He said, yeah, I understand that. Just make sure this experiment succeeds.
Did you see Clay Shirky's piece by any chance in the Harvard Business Review? He's been talking about it for a bit. It's the secret of success for open source, and that should be learned by others, is that the price of failure has gone way, way down, and so being able to fail rapidly and cheaply drives
fail
innovation.
faster, right?
Yeah.
Fail faster, and get up and do it again, and proceed.
Although having a chance to think about it
Well, I think that
Also
you need
would be
somewhere in there, and I think one of the interesting things about all the technologies that we're talking about is, one of the interesting things is this ability to carve out time and create a narrative of what's going on that you can in fact then think about. There's something to go look at, to sit down and write, a journal to yourself or whatever, or for the team to then think about what's going on and say, oh, because if I can't look at it, I can't think about it. Because I think part of one of the things that one of the things that we tend to do is equate thinking with sort of staring off into space blankly.
Solitary and silent.
Solitary. And
which is the Descartes sitting in his chambers meditating,
right,
and discovering that there's only thing you can be certain of is a mental content. So.
Exactly. So, but all the really interesting research and thinking occurs in the group settings, and what I think some of these tools and technologies let us do is create a space and a content to think around and about. And so that, examining what it is about those processes that are not things that you can reduce to, processing insurance claims or filling out mortgage applications, and yet still have some very loose element of almost structuring to it, is what I think we're kind of feeling our way towards.
But I think you're making, see now, from my biases, I hear you through a blogging filter, and it seems to me like you are making the case for blogging as a social thought. Or it's at least a semi-public, depending on how you're doing it, semi-public narrative that you're constructing in bits over time, because not everybody can sit down and write, but here's what I'm thinking today, and here's what happened in the project today. So, and it's public, so that it is engaged in this. It's not a mental content. It's not even the relationship to a book where you're reading. It's engaged in commenting on other people and commenting on your sites. So it's thinking not as the internal, but as the external motivation, and the ability. It is hard for a lot of corporations don't want to do blogging because they think it has to be right, and good writing, perfect writing, polished, great ideas polished, when in fact blogging is about failing fast and frequently in the realm of thought, socially and in public.
Put an idea out there and have people go, oh,
that's
what
not right. Flick it this way or shape it or get rid of it. And
see a draft, write another draft, and the draft process becomes something that's visible. And I think, that works within a work group. But I also think that same discipline, if you will, works at the individual level. I don't know about you. I keep a blog that I don't share with anybody else, where I first start out writing my own ideas, and I'll draft an email there, and then it'll go out as an email. But then 6 months later, I can go back and find it there and say, what was I thinking? The biggest insight I ever thought I had about knowledge management, which I failed at many times in organizations, was looking in the mirror one morning and realizing that I was the problem, in the sense that I was the guy who 6 months ago hadn't written down what I was thinking about. So I had no record about what I had learned. So how was I going to go tell the rest of the organization to do that discipline until I could do it for myself? And once I started doing it for myself, then I discovered I don't care whether anybody else in the organization gets value out of it. I get value out of it, right? I learn from having a record of my own thinking. And then then you sneak that into more people and let them get it. And that's why I think the implementation problem of all of this is so hard. Because you have to, I think you do this one knowledge worker at a time, and this notion that I can get some institutional process that I require people to blog.
You will all start blogging now.
You will all start blogging now. I tried
turn in your notebooks at the end of the term.
Turn your notebooks at the end of the term. I tried that in a class I taught. And 1 out of 10 people did it, and 0 out of them ever did it after the class was over and they had their grade. None of them ever connected to it. I think that would change today, partly because I now understand about what to get out of it. I can coach people, but you can't manage people. I think you can coach people to become bloggers. I don't think you can train or manage people to become bloggers. That's my thought. for me. Any other thoughts?
Yeah, I'm bereft of thoughts.
I'm bereft of thoughts as well.
Thank you.
Okay.